Hello, people. I didn't quite get that timing right, did I? I don't think. But yeah, we're gonna have China versus Brazil recorded games here. I'll just spend a little bit of time, first of all, introducing what this is all about because some of you may not know. Some of you may know if you've been had your ears to the ground or been looking on the forums, etc. But this is going to be a $400 series best of seven between China and Brazil. National teams, if you like. It's not. You might say there's one or two players missing for each team who might be considered amongst their starting four. The Gao, perhaps a very notable absence for Brazil's A team, if you like, but certainly extremely strong teams for both players. China are currently in the process of organising these sorts of series versus other teams. They've already played versus Finland, and we do actually have those recorded games that are like in the public domain to be casted. I've been meaning to do that for quite some time, but I haven't really found a good window for me to do it personally. I'm going to wake up from my introduction here because we see Yo stealing a boar from Fire immediately. Those are the two flank players over here. We'll just keep an eye on how that progresses initially. Can't see. Is there anything going on in the other side? Wow, we just got a resubscription from Dave. Dave, legend. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, looks like Yo's probably going to be able to pull this off. The scout that's nearby is actually his pockets, Licks. I'm just going to finish off saying like China seem to be playing a number of practice series with some prize money, I think, provided by Paladin himself against various other strong nations like Finland, which I'm going to get casted at some point, hopefully, either by myself or somebody else in our team will do it. And then also Vietnam, although I don't think any of those recordings are really kind of floating around in the recording domain, in the public domain yet. Maybe our amazing rec poster on AOC Zone, Hugh Coyote, will get hold of those at some point, and we can bring those to you on this channel too. Also, worth something I'm going to mention right at the outset here for this live stream viewers is that games 2 and 3 of this series were casted live by Nonsensical at the weekend, so we will not be seeing those tonight. It's just something we do here, really official. Like, we don't recast each other's work because it's basically saying I can do stuff better than you, so we don't do that. But so after this game 1, which hasn't been streamed live by us, we will be then magically transporting to game 4. We see that Yo, let's head into the game and actually have a look now. We see that Yo actually was successful in that boar steal. Fire was going to try and get this one, but Yo was just about there with his villager, and Fire seems to have missed Yo's other one. So Yo probably going to have 3 boars at this point as Mongol flank. Let's have a look at the player positions. We've got Yo in green as the left flank for China. His pocket's going to be... Oh, and he's playing as Mongols, as I mentioned. Lick's going to be in the pocket position in the red colour as Spanish, and other pocket is going to be Paladin / Fengjin, playing in teal as the Mayan pocket, so possibility we might see a sling coming out for him, but we'll have to see. And then his flank is going to be Huns, played by Moonlight in the yellow colour. On the Brazil side of things, let's have a look what's going on here. It looks like there may have been an attempt to even steal Fire's other boar by Feng Jin, by Paladin, but I think Rhea is going to be able to deal with that. That scout is almost dead at this point, and between Rhea and Fire, they should be able to send that boar back to Fire's TC. But Fire hasn't taken a boar yet, and it's nearly 6 minutes, and he's not going to be taking this one until... Probably not going to get under his TC until close to 7 minutes in, which is going to be pretty horrible for him. But yeah, returning to talking about the team lineups, I'll start on the top flank. Got Goku in Chinese as grey. Goku in grey as Chinese even. In the pocket position for him, we've got Miguel playing as Huns in purple. Other pocket, Rhea, Mongols of course, as orange, in the orange colour. I really can't get that kind of like phrasing the right way around, can I? And then, as we've seen quite a lot of already, we've got Fire on the flank in blue as the Mayans. So, differences between the two teams then. Brazil opting for the Chinese as the 4th civilization, if you like, after the power trio of Huns, Mayans and Mongols that basically pick themselves. And then Chinese opting for Spanish. We've seen a lot in the Arabia Invitational how much Chinese players love Spanish, and typically they've often gone for them in team game tournaments as well. Like I think banking on their kind of amazing teamwork, kind of carrying them through into the late game, where the Spanish trade bonus really kicks in, whereas Chinese a little bit more of an aggressive approach in terms of like probably looking to win it slightly earlier than the post Imperial Age. Already see China aiming for a decent amount of walling going on. Moonlight has actually managed to find this tiny hole at the edge of the map, so that's going to be good for him, and he's going to be walled almost all the way to Paladin, who himself has started to build up a pretty big team wall across the front here. Not so much in the way of team walling going on for the Brazilian side, although they all, looking at the kind of straight lines on the minimap, they all seem to be doing some individual walling at the least. Absolute ton of Xing going on throughout. See somebody lost their scout here. It looks like it could well have been Goku's, judging by the colour of it, although it's always hard to tell, especially with my extra blood mod. I might switch to the Chinese point of view just to see if they're not Xing quite as much, because it's getting to be very distracting. But anyways, in terms of Civ matchups, so we've got a Mayan pocket for Paladin, and judging by like the amount of team walling that's going on already, like we might see him elect a sling instead of doing a like a plumed archer build. So we'll just have to wait and see regarding that. On the flanks, Yo going for a stable, as the Mongols pretty predictable stuff. It's rare that you would see a Mongol Drush in a team game, especially after getting 3 boars. Fire's Drush is in play. It's probably not going to be able to achieve a great deal as long as Yo, like presumably it's going to circle around and maybe try and come at the back from the back and hit these berries, but by that point Yo will have a decent number of scouts so that he can intentionally help, like mix in with his villagers to help combat that. And also he should see this coming from a way away. He probably saw the Drush hanging around his buildings, and he's going to see it now. Actually sending 2 villagers out here, is he really? He's just going to build a house. What I thought for a second they were hunters. He'd sent them to go and like steal all these deer off of outside of Fire's barracks and just send his scouts there, protect the villagers. I thought that was going to be a crazy move. On the other side, with everybody walled up, I don't know how much the players' drushes, if they have them, are going to be able to do. So we'll return to what's going on with Yo's defending this Drush from Fire. You can see that the Eagle of Fire went down almost immediately, but now the Drush is going to be able to like clean up, potentially pick off 1 villager. Most of it was getting cleaned up, but that is a villager that needs 1 more hit him. Ridiculously, it actually tried to build a farm and therefore halting in its path instead of diving into the TC, and Fire's Drush just actually pick up a villager, which is good for him considering he needs to slow Yo down. Yo, obviously being Mongols with 3 boars, is going to put him in a great position. Although you have to say that the blow of losing a boar is slightly softened when you're Mayans, given the fact that their resources do last longer. So Yo didn't even bother going to try and hit Fire with his scouts. He's got a scout of his own trapped inside Fire's walls, so he knows that Fire is walled up, and he's going to go and see if he can do some damage to Riot, who is playing Mongol pocket for Brazil. Riot with some walls, but the scouts will be able to find their way in. Looks like Yo, is not really going to be continuing with massive scout production, so he's not going to delay his Castle Age time. Incredibly, he's just done a few scouts, and with 3 boars in the bank from the Dark Age, his fast castle time off the back of just a few scouts won't be too bad at all, actually. Not a lot happening on the other side. We actually see double palisades from Moonlight, which is just pretty crazy. Coinage kicking in for Paladin, so we're probably going to have Paladin slinging his flank Moonlight, although the sling might also go in a different direction. Rhea going to fight off these 3 scouts of Yo with a villager, some villagers and his own scouts, bringing a spear across as well, so those scouts are going to be able to do very little at all. Let's have a look at what's going on with some of the other players. Fire is going to go archery ranges as Mayans initially, so just 1 archery range. Don't see him on stone at all, so probably going to be sticking with crossbows in the castle age instead of trying to go straight for plumed archers. Over here, Yo's scout going down, so Yo's just got the one scout to harass with now. Not going to be able to achieve a lot there at all. A lot of players on the way to the castle age. As I was saying, nobody has reached it just yet, although the first players to do so will be doing so in just a moment. Lick's managing to get a whole bunch of upgrades whilst on the way, and we can see he's playing a Spanish pocket, and he's actually going to be going conks by the looks of it, so not knights from the pocket. I was mentioning like the characteristics of the Chinese when they used the Spanish civilization and the Arabian 1v1 invitation. I think they were the only people to do it. They really did love the conquistador play and kind of trush FC conquistadors, crazy stuff like that. So going to see conquistadors from pocket versus Mayans and Mongol opponent. Could potentially be pretty good in terms of raiding, especially as Fire's resources, like this gold is safe, but wood lines will probably be pretty harassable by conquistadors once some of the trees that are kind of making the wood line a bit thicker are chopped away. But now nothing much going on because China are fully team walled, and I think all of them on the way to the castle age apart from Paladin, who's slinging, of course. Goku just kind of investigating with that group of archers that he has. You can see that he's becoming pretty desperate because of all these palisade walls and stone walls that are going up. He's come from this flank on the right hand side, and his archers have not nearly across the entire map just trying to find something to do. They're going to attack this house for a bit, but that just probably shows how desperate they are. Just sheer boredom. Fortunately for Lix, his stone mine was just far enough away from the walls that Goku's archers couldn't actually harass them. But even so, with that warning shot, he's going to just throw up stone walls anyway, which is a good idea because Riet's probably going to be able to try and break through that wall pretty quickly with knights. Yo now going 2 stables plus bloodlines in the castle age. So going to be going massively aggressive as the flank. Probably worth cycling the dashboard at this point to figure out where Paladin's sling is going, and unsurprisingly it is heading towards Moonlight, who is his own flank. So Moonlight's sitting on 3 stables, absolutely pumping knights, already with bloodlines and +2, so that's going to be really like crazy strong at 18 minutes into the game and just ticking over to 19. Meanwhile, Riet and Fire are going to prowl around over here, looking for a way into Yo's base. Might be able to pick up a couple of villages on the gold mine and deny this TC for a little while. Especially, that's 1 down already, and almost certainly going to be 2 and several more, really, if Fire just is able to move those crossbows around here. But I don't know if you can actually see that TC going up. He's going to see it now, but it's going to be too late to get as many vills as he perhaps could have done, but still does pick up a 3rd. So Yo, I think has lost 4 vills at this point to Fiery, despite stealing a ball from him. So pretty good job by Fire, actually, especially considering he was a ball behind. But now Yo with double stable knights with bloodlines and Lix's conquistadors on the scene, is a pretty powerful army to combine, and it's going to force I nearly said the tyrants then, because these players are both tyrant, but it's going to force Brazil back. Teal slinging yellow. What brackets are you after will work for ice cream? I can't think, unless you mean Deathmatch World Cup. But anyway, Fire's crossbows are going to get completely cleaned up here. As I was saying, this army of +2 knights plus conquistadors for China is really, really powerful. And Riet, it looks like Riet didn't make that much army at the start of Castle Age, just staying on 1 stable, a few knights, and then a few camels to defend, like, while he goes for a more boom-oriented approach. That's going to leave Fire trying to defend with only minimal support from his pocket for a while, certainly unless Riet transitions into kind of more stables after a mini boom. But as he's the Mongols, he might not even do that. He might be more focused on getting to the Imperial Age and switching into Mangudai a bit faster, rather than expending a lot of resources on dropping more stables and producing from those. See, right now, actually, this is just I don't know how long those knights had been there, but its reaction time looked a tiny little bit slow there. Moonlight getting in on his villagers, and you thought Riot would have had that attack notification and moved his camels a little bit faster. Looks like Moonlight's preparing to run in with a lot more knights, actually being chased by a ton of wolves here, but those won't be any problem for those knights. Yo, meanwhile, has found one tile of palisade in Fire's wall, and he's going to be in. Fire's base is pretty compact, but certainly villagers in this area are going to be vulnerable, and also for the knights to find their way around to here. Those knights don't have any armor upgrades for now, whereas Fire is on +2, and he's got loads more crossbows here, so those knights are going to be forced away and probably going to be picked off. Meanwhile, Riot defending with camels, going to force Moonlight's knights away. Moonlight also trying to raid Miguel, and nothing much going on over here against his own flank opponent Goku, who's fully stonewalled. So Moonlight being slung by his pocket paladin, but Moonlight isn't pushing really against anyone. He's massing up, but not really threatening any player too much at this point in time. Just cycle the table again just so you can see Paladin at this point has sent over 3,000 food and gold, but nobody else sending resources to their ally thus far. Miguel is the one who's actually getting ahead in terms of villager numbers, so he's defending with monks and seems to have probably just stayed, judging by the number of knights he has, stayed with just the one stable and transitioned into boom mode, much the same as his other pocket Riot. Moonlight's still prowling around looking for something to hit with all these knights, but he's having a tough job of just finding any targets and actually making use of the sling that he is receiving from Paladin. Meanwhile, Fire just staying defensive as well. Knows that there are there's a lot of knights out there for Moonlight, and also Yo having gone knights licks with conquistadors. This crossbow army, if it gets caught out in the open, would be in a lot of trouble. Then it looks like he's just trying to focus on his eco and defending for a while. Nice fight here for China, taking that little hill and picking off one knight at least. They would hope to try and force a bigger engagement considering the number of knights they've got there from Moonlight and the position that they had. But Brazil sensibly backing off. Riot also kind of obstructing this entrance here with some camels, which will get torn up pretty bad by conquistadors potentially. This is going to be an interesting engagement to see who gets the better of it. If those camels can kind of cramp up the army of the Chinese players and surround them, they can do a ton of damage. And Goku's here with camels as well, actually, and the Chinese players are massively outnumbered with 3 players here from Brazil. Monks also from Brazil as well, really helping to turn that fight, and that is a decisive victory for Brazil, and a great number of losses from the Chinese team, with Riot getting in those conversions as well. And these camels, they're going to take an okay spot, but really it's a last stand at this point. Some will be converted and some will die. And, like Brazil taking this engagement in this area of the map really decisively there. Looking at the villager counts, they've got 2 players for both teams and roughly 75 plus villagers. Goku is not much ahead of Paladin, despite Paladin having remained in the feudal age slinging, but Goku has been doing military as well. Trying to follow all of these X's on the map. But in terms of Imperial Age, Moonlight is going to be first, obviously with the sling that he has, dropping more and more stable, so we're going to see mass paladins from him. He did a good job of adding in TCs and getting onto a good number of villagers as well as receiving the sling. Sometimes you see players, they get slung, perhaps not at this level, but certainly you do sometimes see players getting slung and they don't manage to also boom behind that, which, if they don't do huge amounts of damage, then it damage in the kind of mid game, and they will tail off towards the late game. Brazil trying to take an aggressive position against Yo, the Mongols player, who, if they're able to do good damage to in the late Castle Age or early Imperial Age, that would be really nice to be pegging back the Mongols player. Yo really is not sitting on a crazy number of villagers to be going into the powerful Mongol post-Imperial Age army at this point. He seems to only have one castle and just 80 villages, which isn't really going to support the Mongol Imperial Age death ball that we're used to seeing in Arabia team games. So Brazil are actually going to be pushing in against him before he's ready to field that kind of army, which will be nice for them if they're able to do significant damage. Over here, Paladin is focusing on just walling the crap out of Moonlight's map, so for Brazil, like, their best chance to get into China's base is going to be by hitting Yo, I think, and they're probably going to concentrate a lot of attacks on him, especially on this side with Riet and Fire. This is a really nice strategic castle for Fire, because obviously taking control of the hill also going to allow him to produce and transition into plumed archers from a forward position if that's what he wants to do in the Imperial Age, as well as getting trebuchets out on the hill. And the really nice thing about this location, it's enabling them to take out some of Yo's production facilities, so he's not able to make much armor to fight back against this at the moment because he'll have to rebuild production facilities in the back, and he's also on just the one castle as he begins to make Mangudai. Yo also losing Siege Workshop, etc. And they'll be able to start hitting the eco soon enough. Meanwhile, over here, we can see Goku just keeping an eye on what Moonlight's Cavaliers now are doing. Obviously, with just some Castle Age camels and not even Bloodlines, he's not going to be wanting to take this fight, but if he can lead those Cavaliers on a wild goose chase, as he seems to be doing now, that's going to be pretty good in terms of distracting and diverting those slung Imperial Age Cavaliers for a while. Meanwhile, Paladin's starting to trade. I assume he's going to get a caravan in a little while. So the Chinese are looking to take advantage of that Spanish team bonus, that trade bonus, and Fire is indeed transitioning into plumed archers at this point, just off one castle for now. Yo is the only person who's got a second castle. I'm going to switch to his point of view to see if that's, two in his base, and he's putting up a third here, so going to be ready to start massing up those Mangudai, but the Brazilian players are taking strategic positions right on the front of his base. Decent castle position coming up for Fire here as well. You might argue that the best place would have been right on the top of this hill to cover this gold more, to take more of a hill bonus. But certainly, like, Fire could probably engage in some kind of treb war with Yo as well, although Yo does have more castles at this point. Lix has kind of reappeared to help out Yo. He's been a little bit absent for a while, just cleaning stuff up around here, but gonna be under those castles all the time, taking lots of damage. Meanwhile, Goku, with a lot of camels over here, is kind of able to take this fight a little bit against the Cavaliers of Moonlight. But Miguel is coming in with a ton of knights here, and this is going to be a great pincer movement, and Moonlight will be well advised to get out of here, which he is doing just now. Does have some of his own reinforcements coming in from behind, can kind of retreat to the edge of this hill, but Riet coming in with more camels as well, and this is kind of shutting down Moonlight's Paladin transition, which will be kicking him just now. Right now, the Paladin's going to come in. Come on, don't lie to me. Overlay / but there we go. Paladin, so Moonlight taking the fight, but I don't know how well this is going to go. Just going to have a quick look at what's going to go happening on the left-hand side. Looks like Lix is still chasing away plumed archers from Fire. Meanwhile, returning to this big mounted engagement on the right-hand side. Miguel now has Cavaliers and some Mangudai and even a converted conquistador joining the fight for Riet. Just trying to see how this is going. Moonlight is obviously streaming Paladins in all the time from behind, but it's looking better for Brazil. I can see a lot more purple Cavaliers, and I can see plenty of camels still on the field, and Moonlight has just lost a ton of stuff there. China trying to plug this hole in the wall that they've letting some villages out of. Meanwhile, Yo, obviously, I said he had quite a number of castles, which is enabling him to be ahead in the Treb war just now. Yo actually on the 4th castle. We see this so much from Yo. If you see a bunch of castles just coming up on hills everywhere, it's probably Yo. But Fire going to repair that castle for now. I think it's going to go down with the number of trebuchets firing at it. He's also trying to counter Treb, the Trebs that are aiming at his castle, but not in time. And Yo's just going to pack those Trebs up and get out of there. Over here, Moonlight going to try and ram into Goku's base, but that's completely unsupported at this point. Actually, not unsupported. He does have a ton more paladins behind here, but Miguel is about to get paladin of his own, getting cartography as well, so he'll have the vision to come and help Goku, but also heavy camel kicking in for Goku, which is going to mean that he's able to fight back against a slung player going paladins pretty well. Let's see Paladin, you know, it's just team walling everywhere, he's Xing everywhere, he's doing the role of being a coach, which is so critical when you're slinging, because you're the person who's got the time to kind of look around the map and kind of look at the big picture and say to your teammates where they should be and how they should be positioning their armies. Over here on the left we can see potentially the next massive engagement of the game coming in. Mangudai is for both players, but Fire only having plumed archers, whereas Lix is here with paladins, so that's a much stronger army for China at this point. And Trebs on both hills kind of firing at each other. Yo's castle, you know, if this Treb doesn't get cleaned up, then that one castle, the most forward castle of Yo's, could go down. And Lix's paladins are starting to decrease in numbers, but they're still taking decent fights there in close quarters against the Mangudai, and also against plumed archers, which are not actually elite. That upgrade is still kicking in for Fire, and that could be really big depending on where he's actually doing that plumed archer upgrade. He's actually doing it in this one, so he's not going to lose it. Would have been a big mistake to do it in one of your forward castles when you know there's a chance it could be Treb down. Over here it looks like Moonlight was chased away. We can see that he went in, sustained some losses, and then probably actually went all the way through to the back of the base, but he's completely trapped by Goku's heavy camels, and this is going to be a slaughter. But one of Goku's camels is actually holding the gate open, which could give Moonlight a way to get some of those paladins out, but it looks like the camels are just going to slaughter Moonlight's paladins now. Goku even deleting buildings to get a much better encirclement, and that has gone really, really badly for Moonlight. He had like 30 paladins here that he's got to push in with, and they've just got trapped and slaughtered by Goku's camels. Really nice result there for Goku. And Brazil now have two players with a higher, well actually no, one player with a higher score, that being Riot, than the player for China who's being slung. So Riot playing really well, but also testament to the kind of swing and fortunes for Moonlight with all of his army being destroyed. Goku is now, you know, in addition to just kind of mopping the slung player up with the heavy camels, he's team walling the whole map with really aggressive forward stone walls, taking tons of map control and going to allow them to even maybe take some of the extra resources if they drive Yo away from this area. Meanwhile, Fire back up to a good number of trebuchets, probably going to be able to get this most forward castle from Yo, but Yo himself with some trebuchets and backed up by a ton of paladins from Lix, but this is a really threatening number of Mangudai for Riot now. He's probably going to go in and kind of snipe these Trebs and get out of there, although just being forced away really by the sheer number of paladins, he would probably lose a lot of Mangudai there if he just sat there just even for a few seconds trying to make sure to get those Trebs destroyed. Certainly seems that both teams just kind of swirling around with their armies, just trying to get the best position for an engagement. Riot is moving in with his Mangudai, probably could have sat on this hill a little bit better. Backed up by elite plumed archers now from Fire, just missing chemistry. Lots of paladins from both Miguel and Lix, but Lix looks to have a lot more, and that is going to be pretty important in this fight. But Brazil, with the sheer number of archer units and the kind of rate of fire, just sheer volume of fire pouring out from both of these plumed archers and Mangudai armies that fire so quickly is just forcing Licks away, just decimating him, and now we get massive reinforcements by Miguel, and even Riot as well, bringing a ton more Mangudais to the party. And now China look to have completely lost this engagement. Brazil will be able to take this all-important hill and lay siege to another of Yo's castles. Probably even pushing against this area as well if they want to, but now this is just so threatening. Basically, with Lix's army kind of disappearing from the picture for a moment, it was 3v1 for just a moment, and Yo was forced to retreat. Lix is now remassed, and he actually getting banking, so he must be flying too many resources at this moment, but I think Brazil will be able to continue to push on this left-hand side. Meanwhile, nothing much going on the right-hand side. Moonlight even switched to Halberdier, so he's actually not receiving the sling anymore. You can see Paladin is on the way to Imperial Age, so he's decided it's time to get into the fight and stop slinging his ally, because at this point, the game Feudal Sling just ineffective. He obviously transitioned out of that a while ago, given that he's halfway to the Imperial Age, but I just hadn't noticed it with all the action going on. So Moonlight going with a lot of Halberdier, and probably trying to rebuild his gold reserves after spending on so many paladins, but they have been trading with Spanish trade for such a long time. See, at this point, Brazil are able to just sit on this hill with 3 players. Really great strategic position, because not only are they pushing against the castles of Yo, they're also denying him his extra golds. I mean, he is out here taking this one. He got on this really early, which is nice for him. But I believe these are his 2nd and 3rd golds. And that's going to be really hurting a Mongols player. Let's take a look at his point of view. He's actually still sitting on a decent number of golds, so I wonder if some of the sling went to in his direction at some point. Yes, Yo has been receiving 4,000 gold, so Fengjin Paladin must have been slinging a lot of the gold to him after a certain point, once Moonlight kind of started to look a little bit ineffective at the start of Imperial Age, once Goku went down the heavy camel route. Chinese team taking that decision to switch the sling towards Yo so that he can field that post-Imperial Age Mongol army of elite Mangudais, and now Siege Onager kicking in, despite having lost access to both his 2nd and 3rd starting golds. This hill will be crucial for China to defend with, but with only 2 armies here versus 3 at this point, they could still lose out even with that hill. On the right hand side, Paladin pushing out with the castle, so he's going to be going elite plumed archers, getting all his archer upgrades in chemistry, thumb ring, bracer. So in the not too distant future we'll see plumed archer mass on the field from him, but for now Brazil's sitting on a pretty decent lead. They're got a score lead of about 10%. Seems to be pushing very nicely against Yo, actually taking down 2 castles thus far, and likely to be destroying a 3rd one, which will leave Yo on just 2 castles, whilst trying to remass Mangudai, which is not a healthy position to be in. And Goku's even starting to probe and prod through here. It looks like they're almost preparing for a trade raid, actually. We see Siege Onager from Ria's going to cut through here, and that will enable them to get to the trade. So that I'll flick back to this area in a moment just to see if they manage to execute that trade raid successfully. For now, on the left hand side, Brazil just kind of preparing their push, bringing in SO to back up and fire at Yo's Mangudai when they decide to make their move, but also just kind of sitting pretty, stealing the gold. Let's have a look over here. SO has just opened the route to the trade, and like the Chinese players are going to know about this. You can see the frantic Xing coming out from Paladin at this point to sort this stuff out. Yellow player Moonlight is going to try and quick wall it, but he's going to be unsuccessful, and that's going to be devastating to have about 15 or 20 Mangudais just like in behind the enemy lines, just slaughtering all this trade. I doubt that Chinese will actually have any army in this area to react quickly before a large number of carts go down. On the left hand side, meanwhile, that big engagement we've been waiting to see has just kicked off. Huge numbers of red and purple paladins. Might even be hard to tell them apart on the stream. Ria micing pretty well to avoid all of these SO shots. Yo's got a lot more SO shots, but this is going to be shorter. Actually, tons of Mangudai going down there. Only 1 SO for Rhea firing at a lumber camp, massively unhelpful, and the Chinese have taken that engagement really, really well. They won't want to overextend themselves and push against this hill and the castles, and also have Siege on just sitting on the hill. Let's have a look how the Mangudai raiding is going. Looks like Moonlight was able to react to that pretty quickly with some paladins and trap Mangudai in against this forest, and they're really not going to be taking out too many carts, so good reaction from China here. I was worried for them that they wouldn't have had army in the location, but it seems Moonlight was able to kind of either divert some paladins or quickly produce them, and also, luckily for them, Paladin, Feng Jin, had managed to start getting out that massive plumed archers nearby from his nearby castles to deal with it. So you have to feel like if Riet's Mangudai had gone in a little earlier, before Paladin had been in that position to mass up those plumed archers, and also whilst Moonlight was just sitting on some howls and not really having rebuilt and remassed paladins, like the trade raid could potentially have been a little bit more effective, but as it was, very little damage, a lot less than I expected to see. Meanwhile, the China team has kind of done a really good job here of reclaiming this sort of area, made it unsafe for the Brazilian team to take this gold, and kind of made a really nice stand at this hill, and now starting to kind of push back a little bit. Both teams clinging to their respective hills, and it'll be interesting to see like which team. Well, these can be really big SO shots off the hill. Unfortunately for Yo, they were landing on top of Lix's paladins, which could kind of tank it, but will still be great damage. Yo still receiving tons of sling from Paladin. And now we see another castle from Riet kind of banking on Yo not having any trebs in the area to knock that down while it's being built. And Fire now with 4 trebs of his own, one of not unpacked, going to be able to lay siege to this castle. Meanwhile, Miguel seems to have the edge in Paladin numbers, whilst the Mangudai numbers are roughly equal between Yo and Riet. But that means that the total army here for Brazil is just massively higher. Let's have a quick look. Okay, nothing going on here despite the Paladin Xing it. It looks like Brazil have kind of remassed, and although they were pushed back here just a bit, now I think they're ready to kind of push in and have another go at driving through this area and really forcing Yo back and taking out a lot of his base. Not going on here much either. Just random X's from Paladin. Obviously we don't have the benefit of their understanding what they might have been saying to each other on TeamSpeak or something like that. But that castle's going to go down for Yo, and now Yo is back down to 2 castles whilst Riet is on 6. So that just tells you the difference in Mangudai production between the 2 players that will be possible going forward. On the right hand side, we haven't kind of visited this area for quite a while. Moonlight trying to do a little bit of a push, but he's fighting under 2 castles and versus a ton of plumes, Chukonu and heavy camel in defense from Goku, so really not going to be able to achieve too much there, and his paladins are just getting cleaned up, even if they are getting some kills in return. Obviously important to remember at this point that the Spanish trade has been kicking in for the Chinese all this time. You see their trade, like we looked at it before, it is really, really good. Possibly not as good for Brazil, but certainly pretty healthy looking, but obviously not benefiting from that trade bonus. But even so, Brazil seems to be in a really healthy position with the armies that they have. Moonlight's really struggling to do anything on the right hand side. Riet's now kind of looking for different things to do with his Mangudai, almost looking for ways in, looking for ability to raid, looking for ability to sneak in, and he's actually going to run into Yo's Mangudai in the middle of the map, so the Mongols seem to, for both teams, seem to have shifted their focus. Riet needs to be careful now because a really nice patrolling could come in from Lix and deal with a ton of these Mangudai, but Riet's on the ball. Could kind of get trapped by Yo's Mangudai if Lix had come from this top direction a little bit more. Could have been an absolute Mangudai bloodbath for Riet there, but he gets out with most of them. Not too terrible a loss there, but he'll want to retreat. He doesn't want to stand around and take that. Meanwhile, Fire would be ready to push some more here, I think, but his plumed archers are elsewhere. We saw them helping out on the right hand side and busting into the trade, and now a whole bunch of Chukanu paladins from Miguel and Fire's own plumes busting through this wall on the right hand side, and a ton of siege rams as well. This is going to be a really difficult push because Moonlight just cannot clean this up on his own with the heavy camels there from Goku as well. SO shot from Yo trying to pick up an absolute ton of Chukanu, but Goku reacts in time, and now this is looking really threatening for Moonlight to defend against pretty much on his own. I don't see Paladin coming to help out at this point. Like, where is Paladin's army? Some running through here, but that's not a lot. Not gonna be able to deal with this push too well. Meanwhile, on the left hand side, nothing much happening. Fire taking his trebuchets elsewhere, and then in the middle we saw like Yo and Lix's army. They're just trying to hold this middle area where it looks like Fire was also preparing a plume and ram push with support from Miguel's paladins, and I think Riot might be thinking about helping out over here as well, but Lix and Yo are going to defend that. Meanwhile, on the right hand side, this kind of push towards the trade, I assume they want to get the siege rams to actually kind of knock down markets as well and knock down production facilities. It's looking like although they're like pushing in and doing damage, China are just about managing to hang on just at this point, as long as the paladins keep flooding from Moonlight. They have to keep having the paladins flooding and the plumed archers helping to whittle down the camels. But so far that is happening. But here we're now, because he in with like 20 plus Mangudai, and that's going to turn this absolutely massively, as well as also Miguel, in with the paladins. But Riot's not even going to stand up fight. He's going to go straight to the trade, and I see Paladin Xing elsewhere. Okay, now we see an X coming in from Lix saying like, sort this out, or else all our trade is GG. Riot probably won't want to sit under this castle, but we'll see if he finds a nicer spot to pick up all these trade cards. Meanwhile, in the middle of the map, like Yo and Lix, kind of two of the most powerful armies with China that the Chinese team have there. You know, they're kind of floating around in the middle of the map, defending, engaging the Brazilian army to a degree, but not really being deployed to their maximum effectiveness. You would have to say, when there's this big death push happening with Brazil on the right hand side with 3 players here, and well, actually all 4 of the Brazilian team are in here in with some amount of army. Not too many carts going down so much at this point. Looks like Yo is kind of broken through this, and Lix actually coming through this wall. Yeah, that's what, there must be something holding that wall open, or a gap, because there's Lix has actually got one of his paladins standing under the gate, attacking the gate to hold it open, which is going to give them free route into the Brazilian half of the map to try and do their own trade raiding. Goku's kind of lacking all that ball of siege rams that he had to help push against the castles and the markets and stuff, but the amount of army here from Brazil is absolutely frightening. Even with 2 castles here, they can kind of just sit and take this fight, and although they're not taking down massive amounts of carts just now, they are really constantly eroding the defensive capabilities of China on this right hand side here. But despite that, Moonlight is doing a really good job of just continually flooding power into this area. But now Goku with the bombard tower push. That's the nice thing about the Chinese, of course. In the late game, you can make those bombard towers, which make them a really valuable addition to the Huns, Mayans and Mongols army. Obviously Spanish can do the same as well. But for now, Goku is the one who's making those bombard towers, and Lix isn't doing it at this point. Because, you know, if the Chinese team doesn't have access to the Brazilian trade, looks like Lix and Yo is still going to push through here, and you know, with the amount of army that they have here, and with most of Brazil's stuff being concentrated on the right hand side, they may be able to push through and deal a ton of damage to the bases of Riot and probably Miguel, and also the trade line. But in the meantime, how much will the Chinese team lose on the right hand side? That is the question. I don't want to call it base trade, because that's not what it is, but it's both a case of both teams gambling on doing more damage to the other one a little bit with their trade raids here. Brazil kind of losing a little bit of momentum here just because of the amount of paladins and plumed archers, but obviously the bombard towers give them a really good foothold here for Goku to remass stuff. Looks like Lix and Yo also on the left-hand side. We're trying to get in and do some raiding, but Fire with a nice piece of stone wall to stop them reaching the trade in any kind of great degree. And they could get kind of trapped in here now that Miguel's coming and they're stuck under a castle as well. Returning to the right-hand side, Moonlight's paladin numbers just will not deteriorate. He's doing a fantastic job of just keeping those numbers high. And aiding the defense over here. And now Goku, the push that was mainly from Goku was supported by Miguel, and Fire is being driven back. I'm surprised, like, I haven't come to this area for quite a long time, just because there hasn't been like tons going on. I'm surprised that there was no real push forward into Yo, like to try and wipe out Yo from this area when Brazil did take this area decisively. And the Chinese doing a really great job of pushing back on the left-hand side, and now they themselves, I was talking about how they were kind of gambling on them being at the right side, the right flank being able to hold, whilst Yo and Lix went for a massive push in the middle with the amount of Paladins and Mangudai. Imagine if you could make a hybrid of a Paladin and a Mangudai, that would be just ridiculous. Like, they were trying to find a way in. They've now got to the trade, and we're doing a ton of damage here, but equally the response from Brazil is pretty good. Lots of army from Miguel, Ria, and Fire in combination going to be able to help drive them away. And now Moonlight is pushing really well on the right hand side. He will kind of run into a roadblock of a ton of heavy camels underneath two castles. And there's Chukonu positioned amazingly well there. It'd be great if Yo had one of his SOs that he was adding in over here just to try and splat all of those. But yeah, Moonlight's gonna need a ton more siege to kind of deal with this, I think. There's a couple of siege rams here and there aren't going to help him push against all of this. This game is just getting absolutely insane now. It's tough to keep track of everything that's going on. Looks like the Brazilian team going to hold this line for a bit. Meanwhile, in the base of the trade line of Brazil, Lix is still running around with Paladins. Obviously not the greatest trade raiders. Whilst it seems to me that Yo's Mangudai aren't in the trade anymore. Like, if you look at the green dots on the map when I've switched to military view, it doesn't have anything on the enemy side of the map, so it's mainly just those paladins in behind. This needs cleaning up. Oh crap. Right hand side, Goku's line is holding firm. Interested to see like if these SO shots could actually hit all of Paladin's plumed archers. Go on, Ria. Fire in that gap, but Paladin must have seen it with the aid of cartography from the cartography line of sight from Moonlight's Paladins, and therefore ran away just in time. But with the rounds he's going to get that castle, and starting to look like a slow but somewhat healthy push from China on the right hand side. And something to note as well, the score lead actually changing in China's favour. That I'm guessing that probably happened fairly recently. So I think what we're seeing now is just like the power of Spanish trade really kicking in the late game. Riet's army numbers are looking pretty low at this point, just 25 as the Mongols in this kind of late post-Imperial Age game, whereas Yo, despite going down to only 2 castles when Riet was on 6, has double the army pretty much, and more castles than him now, so they've been buying loads of stone there. And this push on the left hand side for China is getting dangerously close to kind of wiping out Fire's base. Fire's population has actually dropped dramatically down to 120, and Riet also on 120 in the 120s as well. So the Chinese pushing really strong on this side. Moonlight just never ever has less than about 30 paladins. It's insane how he's kept up the production through the entire game. It was only that moment when he was just kind of saving gold and transitioning to halberdiers whilst they probably just got more trade on the go. But he didn't have a ton of paladins on the field. This is starting to look really good for the Chinese team as well here. They've got the siege here, tons of siege rams backed up by siege onagers, and Yo's Mangudai numbers, at least as many in this vicinity as Riet pretty much as well. Lick streaming paladins, and actually Yo's got loads more army that he can bring forward here as well. So this push is gonna, I mean, Riet's gonna try and hold the line with his Mangudai, probably making use of this hill. It's a really important place to take a last stand, but where Fire's base used to be is looking pretty open. And meanwhile now Moonlight's pushing so well on the right hand side, taking out 1.5 castles basically of Goku's and some of the bombard towers that were here, and it looks like he's ready to start pushing in and taking out the rest of it, because Goku just, okay, he's got some heavy camels but not a lot, and you know, Moonlight and Paladin will be able to do a ton of damage and start really pushing against Goku's base here. Just playing a game of follow the X's to try and locate the next best thing to look at here. But I think the main thing as well is just the pushes on the flanks from either side by the Chinese team. I mean, they've not taken a ton of ground, but considering they were on the defensive on both sides, and now they are on the attack, forcing Brazil back, it does represent a big turnaround. And they're starting to stretch their score lead as well. It was last time I mentioned it, I think it was about 500 difference or something. Don't quote me on that, but now it's about 1,500. It's just, you know, it doesn't tell you everything, but it is an indicator of the kind of reversal in fortunes in this game after Brazil had quite a healthy lead early on, winning by I think a couple of thousand points. Fire even just going pikemen, so we're going to see a Halb transition from him. In terms of number of his castles, he's down 1 to 1, so he just can't mass up plumed archers at this point, and he is facing Paladin, like Chinese are fielding two lots of Paladins as well, so Halberdier is a good choice from him considering he's low on castles and probably gold as well. But Brazil are ready to call it. GG. Both flanks collapsing at this point. Spanish trade for China, allowing them to kind of survive that rocky period in the early Imperial Age, and then wait for Paladin to kind of join the fight, and then after that point, like they just seem to have the edge in rebuilding military, especially Moonlight. He must have created so many Paladins in that game. Like this could have been a death push on the right from Brazil, but Moonlight's ability to keep like 7 or maybe more stables, just constantly producing Paladins during key moments, was really decisive, I think. Like I was being implicitly critical of his play maybe in earlier part of the game when he was being slung but wasn't really achieving much with it, but I think China recognized that he couldn't do too much, and they switched to slinging Yo, which bought them a lot of time on the left hand side. Made sure that both flanks kind of survived, and then the Spanish trade kicked in. Really nice game by China there. Really strong performance in this 4v4 Arabia match. Gonna quickly show you the achievements at this point, as well as updating the scores so that we are looking at 1-0 to China. So I guess some interesting things to look at would be the trade profit in total. You see the Moonlight with 43,000 and Paladin with 36,000. It's absolutely ridiculous trade profit. They did start so early. Obviously Moonlight being slung could get his trade going earlier, and Paladin was slinging, so he could focus on getting trade. And Moonlight receiving 46,000 resources and Yo 20,000, so really strong kind of like trade slinging game by Paladin here in this game. In contrast, Brazil just way less trade. Also see that Moonlight lost 788 units, and practically every one of those was a knight or a cavalier or a paladin. Trained probably 700 paladins in that game. Insane. And getting on to 86 paladins as well. In fact, look at this, Chinese, all of them 86. That's Illuminati stuff, that is. I mean, apart from Paladin himself, the other players. So we've got Lix with 86 paladins, Moonlight with 86 paladins, and Yo with 86 Mangudai. Obviously, there's some siege mixed in and everything, but wow, massive armies being continually replenished by the Chinese team there. Great stuff.